Okay, our left-hand case is ready to go. Our crank is ready to go. I'll put the 3 washers back on the end of the crank, which came off before. And then, hopefully you can see that. Not very well, let me just bring it down a second. I'm just going to oil the rollers. There's assembly lube in the case as well. So our washers are on, our oil seal's in, and now our crank's going in. Like so. Lovely. Right, I didn't have to shim it because it's the original case, the original bearings, the original crank, so there was no need to check the shimming. Nothing should have changed. So I'll now go and get the other case half. The joint faces are all cleaned up. I'll get some gasket goo and we'll stick it together. Right, the cam breather is set at 90 degrees to the crank, so I know its exact position. So this little spring goes in. The bush is already lubricated, so we need to then apply sealant to our case halves. Now I'm using Rotor Seal, or I would be if I could get it to come out of the tube. Everyone has their own favourites in this respect. Rotor Seal just happens to be mine. I think it's great stuff. I came across it working many years ago on Peugeots, where it came supplied in a Peugeot kit, and I've been using it ever since. It's easy to apply. It doesn't solidify as badly as silicone. You don't find it bunging up your insides when you're finished. The engine's inside, obviously. Problem with this one is it's getting a little bit beyond its sell-by date, and therefore slightly gummy in the tube. I'll have to buy some more. It's not the cheapest sealant by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not the dearest either, so I like it and I will continue to use it. Obviously many others exist. Right, is that everything? Our dowels weren't removed, so they're still in place. The thrust washer which sits on here, I've stuck to the inside of the case with some grease, so that should fall out as we go on. So, plenty of oil around a bush. The other side of the bush, if you recall, had assembly lube on it. So that's nice and gooey. Right, the cam is positioned so it's locating pins for the breather upright. So I am hoping this all just slots together without any problems. That's it. It's down. Yep, it's down. No binding there. Difficult to turn the crank. There we go. Oh, there you go. It's not difficult to turn the crank, it's difficult to get the rods out of line so don't batter them. Yep, they're okay. So crank rotates. Quite a bit of goo there, but never mind. So I need to find my little bag with the case bolts and stick it together. Right, the easiest ones to put in first, I think, are our 3 nuts with their spring washers inside the case. And also our one up top here to join the 2 case halves. And then we'll put the longer bolts in. Bit fiddly to the recesses. Where's the third one? Up there. This one's really fiddly. I'll use a socket to start that one off. Right, I'll tighten these down. You can come back and tighten them down. No point watching me do that. Right, I've run them down and now I'm going to torque them up. 16 to 18 pounds it says in the book, so that's what we're going for. Just tighten them equally a bit first before we go mad. A bit tighter. Well, no, can't be tighter, obviously, a bit more awkward. There we go. And this one, try not to get in your way. Right, there is a torque figure for that one, but it's difficult to get a torque wrench on, so I've just done it by hand. You might also notice, if I bring it up slightly, that I've got my little foam protectors back on straight away to make sure the rods don't get damaged as I'm moving things about. Just a simple precaution, really. So there we go. I'll get the other case bolts in. I won't show you that, they are just the same 4 nuts and bolts that we took out earlier, nothing special about them, so I'll get them in and taut. And then, to be honest, I think I will leave things as they are to put this back in the frame and then build the gearbox back in, everything else back in once it's in the frame, because at the minute this is quite light and easy to manoeuvre, and the plates are a problem. Talking of which, I should have fitted the back plate on this side before I bolted the case house together. That may be a problem. Let me go and check. Right, I've checked the mounting bolt and the plate, and lo and behold it didn't fit. So I was about to take the case apart again, which would have been a major irritation, when I discovered that by the simple expedient of removing a few threads from the end of the bolt meant that it was then possible to jiggle it about, get it in, and there's still sufficient thread with the other plate on to get a nut on the other end. So the cases are not coming apart again because of this stupid rear bracket, I'm very glad to say, because I would have been very, very irritated had that been the case, but thankfully it isn't. The original case bolts came up a treat. Quick whiz on the wire wheel, and they're in really good condition. The two coarser thread bolts go in the blind holes. The two finer thread bolts go in the case, through the case. Very, very slight marking on the shanks, so they're going to receive a small amount of anti-seize, or copper slip as we call it, only on the shanks. Same with the ones going into the case, only on the shanks. Shouldn't really grease them if you're going to torque them up. And then the actual threads, I'm just going to get a very light wipe with an oily finger, which is enough to lubricate them. But if you are torquing them down, a very, very light oiling like that will have an effect, but it should be marginal. We hope. Right, now, the other thing I forgot to mention was there were no lock washers. No lock washers, only bolts on these, which, as their original, is a bit of a surprise. So I think I'll dig out a couple of lock washers if I've got them the right size. Which I have. Right, so I'll tighten those down, see if there's a torque measurement for them as well, which it probably is, torque them up, and come back to you when that's done. Right, spinning the engine over, we have to replace the oil filter setup. Interestingly, the BSA factory manual says to use sealant on the gaskets, which I'm surprised at given the age of the vehicle. Normally I was expecting it to say grease them rather than seal them, but seal them it said. So the first one's on and sealed, and then our little plate goes on. It's going to go on that way, isn't it? Yep. And then another gasket. I'm aware of film time. Let me just wipe that excess off the middle. As I say, I'd normally grease these, or gaskets similar to this. Anyway, there's certainly not an excess of gasket glue there, that's for sure. Let's get rid of that. Anyway, do that in a minute. And then our plate, washers, and lock nuts. Right, I'll tighten those down and bring it back for the final run in. Right, they're down and tight without being over tight because they're very small threads. So the only other thing really I should do before I put the engine in the frame, I think, is attach our oil pipes. But I don't have a rubber O-ring for there, and there wasn't one supplied in the oil seal kit, which I thought it might have been, but there wasn't. I'll check my box just in case I've got any new O-rings that'll fit. But if not, I'll have to order one before I can drop the engine into the frame. Otherwise, I think everything else can be done with the engine in place. I'm hoping that's the case anyway. I can't think of anything that requires anything else doing. Okay, I'll look for an O-ring and see what I can find. Yeah, when I mentioned O-rings before, O-ring I said by mistake, I should have said O-rings. It's the two main pipes, your feed and return. I've got O-rings in recesses in that plate, which then bolts with a single bolt to the underside you saw earlier, and I don't have them. I have got a couple of rings in a universal box which will fit the recess, but it looks to me like the rings themselves are also suitably shaped to fit the different diameters of the two pipes. So I'm going to have to order the correct items. But once they've arrived, this can be bolted on, and the engine's going back in the frame like this, and then everything else will be built up with it in place. Great, right. Can't do any more on the bottom half really until I get those. Now when I took it off, there's a small gasket here which you can see. So I thought, oh well, no problem, I'll just order another one of those. But my parts book for 1971 doesn't show that. So I looked on my supplier's website and they don't list it either, which is puzzling, to say the least. So I'm going to reuse it. There's nothing actually wrong with it that I can see. So it's going to be reused. I stuck it in place with a very small amount of gasket sealer, very small amount. I've checked that this face is flat with a straight edge, it appears to be fine. And then there are two recesses in the pipe bracket into which we will fit, and I can get them out of the packet, two seals. So they fit in those recesses, so I will stick them in with a small amount of grease just to hopefully stop them moving. Like so. Lovely. So they sit proud obviously, and then when it bolts up it should all squeeze together. That's the theory. Let's hope it's right. That's tight. Let's just start that. Strange. Don't remember this being particularly tight coming off. Right, that's started. Let me just gently give that a tap, try and get it to seat. I'm going to have to get in your way here, sorry. Try tightening that down. There we go, lovely. Seated square. Right, now, can you see all that? Yes, you can, good. My supplier didn't have all these pipes, sadly, so I can't attach them all, but I'm going to go and dig them out of the box of 2 I do have. I think that's one I'm missing, which is a shame, because this one's easiest to get at, but I want to collect the ones I can, whilst I can, until I can sort out a replacement for this. So let me go and dig them out and show you them. Right, they appear to have been supplied cut to length, which is very handy. So just a matter of squeezing it on and clamping it up. Where's the best place to position that? About there, I think. These might need repositioning when they're in place, but I just want it out of the way of the other pipe for the minute. Lovely. And then a braided length, which I am assuming... let me just think about this for a minute. Yeah, so that must be braided, this length of shorter braid must be for this one. Yep, that must be right. Can you still see what I'm doing? Yeah, good. So let me find a clip for that and I'll bring you back. I'm not sure where that is. Right, couldn't find the original pipe for the minute, so I'm just going to use the a new clip, which is probably not the right way around, but anyway. There's a witness mark on the pipe as to how far in it went. So as I say, I might have to reposition these in relation to the frame rails. We shall see when we get it in. So that's a slightly thinner pipe, so that one must be the oil feed, I'm assuming, because the return should always be bigger. So I'm missing that one, which is the fatter pipe. Yeah, so that must be the return. So I'm going to have to get a length of that before the motor goes into the frame. But I did want these in place first because I think it'd be easier than trying to fight with these, putting the engine in. Right,